But let's go back in history before Maurice will answer that question. Is he still Jewish or a Christian as a Jewish person finding Yeshua? The first century followers and the apostles of Jesus, first of all, were Jewish. And Jesus, as you know, was a rabbi, and he followed all the commands of the Torah. And in fact, the first non-Jewish followers of Jesus didn't even come onto the scene until 10 years after Jesus had passed and after his death, and that was Cornelius. In the first century, there were hundreds of different sects of Judaism. In fact, many more than there are today of Christianity. And the followers of Jesus were called, they had different names. One was the Nazarenes, or the people of the way, or Messianics, which is a term that has come through to this century. And our viewers may not know, too, that around 70 A.D., the Second Temple in Jerusalem was destroyed. And historically, this is where one of the schisms between Judaism and Christianity really began. It's where we now have the Messianic Jew and the non-Messianic Jew. Jesus prophesied that the temple would be destroyed. And when that happened, he told his followers to go to the mountains. And you got to realize the followers that he had back, go to the mountains and don't fight. And the followers that he had back then had seen him raise the dead, have lepers be cured, and other miracles that took place. So when the temple was destroyed, they remember his words. They believed that he was the Messiah, and they respected his words and went to the mountains.
Particularly when he rose from the dead. That is hard to dispute.
It's a pretty strong thing, right?
Hard to dispute that, yeah.
So when this group went to the mountains, his followers, the Nazarenes, the Messianics, whatever name you want to put on them, there was another group that stayed back and fought the Romans, and that was the Bar Kokhba Revolution. So this was another Jewish sect. So you had one Jewish sect sitting here fighting, and yet another Jewish sect that looked like to the eyes of the world they were fleeing, that they were traitors. Well, that's exactly how the Bar Kokhba leaders looked. That Jewish group looked at this other Jewish group as being traitors or running to the mountains. But the truth is they were following the word of the Lord, their Messiah.
Right.
And that is where now we have so that's one of the splits that has taken place there. A little bit more in history. Later on, when Constantine reigned, he removed anything rooted in Judaism from the church. And there was no more observing the Sabbath. There were no more feasts, no more festivals that could be observed. And this reflects the current Christian church of today. It's really devoid of the Hebraic roots. Mm-hmm. Constantine threatened the non-Messianic Jew and the Messianic Jews, threatened their lives if they were going to practice any form of Judaism. So here's where we see briefly a split historically that have taken place between Christianity and Judaism, and also within Judaism itself between the Jews that follow Jesus as the Messiah and the Jews that do not believe him to be the Messiah. So there's a lot of educating to be done on this topic, and between Jews and the Gentiles, and to bring the grounds together that we have more in common than we do apart. And really that's what the whole show of the crossover is about, is to bridge a gap between the Jew and the Gentile. So all of that, to get back to Maurice here, going by the historical view here, Maurice, you would fit into the Messianic group that would have fled to the mountains because you believe Yeshua's commands, you study the Torah, he said to go, you go. But today, 2002, many of the leaders of the Jewish community, the leaders of the Orthodox, the Reform, the conservative, will say that you are not a Jew.
No longer. Yeah,
in fact, they may even say you're a traitor, that you gave up on your faith. And how would you respond to this? Are you Jewish or are you Christian?
I can respond the way many Jews are, contemporary Jews. They are secular. At least half of the population in Israel does not have a real strong faith, and yet they have a knowledge and a consciousness that they are Jewish. And I never, even growing up having almost no background, I still had a consciousness that somehow there was something in me that I knew that I was Jewish. Even though that wasn't stressed, it was something that was in me, and so that never left me. And even after I came to faith in Yeshua as the Messiah, I have not. I have grown more in the last 10 years in my Jewishness, if you will, in my identity as a Jew than I ever knew before. In fact, see, that's what's so wonderful about the Bible. The Bible is a book about the Jewish people, and the Jewish Messiah and the salvation of the whole world through him. And that is as Jewish as you can get.
Sure
there's nothing more Jewish than the faith that comes out of the book.